My name is Delia, and I am 29 years old. I lost the person who loved me most in this world, my grandmother. But the worst part was not her death. The worst part was that my own parents banned me from her bedside in her final days. They told me I had no right to be there. They said I would only upset her. So I stayed away, and she died without me holding her hand. What I did not know then was that Grandma had planned for everything. She left my parents a will, but she left me something else entirely, a trust. And that trust changed everything. Before I begin this story, I want to ask you something. Where are you watching from right now? Drop your city or country in the comments below. I would love to know who is listening. And if you have ever felt like your own family treated you unfairly, please hit that like button and subscribe to this channel. Trust me, you will want to stay until the end of this one. The ending is something I never saw coming. My grandmother Louise was the kind of woman who made you feel safe just by being in the same room with her. She was 82 years old when she passed, but in my memories, she is always younger. She is standing in her kitchen with flour on her apron, teaching me how to roll out pie crust. She is sitting on that old wooden swing in her backyard, telling me stories about her years as an elementary school teacher. She is holding my hand and telling me that I was her greatest joy. I spent every summer at her house from the time I was 5 until I turned 18. Her home was in a small town about 4 hours outside the city, a place where everyone knew everyone, and time seemed to move slower. The house itself was nothing fancy. It was a 2-story farmhouse built in the 1920s, with creaky floors and windows that stuck when it rained. But to me, it was the most beautiful place in the world. There was a large apple orchard behind the house, rows and rows of trees that bloomed white in spring and hung heavy with fruit in autumn. Grandma Louise taught me how to pick the apples at just the right moment, how to tell when they were sweet enough. We would spend entire afternoons making apple pie together, and she always let me eat the scraps of raw dough, even though she said it would give me a stomachache. My mother, Karen, was nothing like Grandma Louise. Where Grandma was warm and patient, my mother was cold and impatient. She worked as a real estate agent, and her job consumed her life. She was always on her phone, always rushing to a showing or a closing, always too busy to sit down for dinner or ask me about my day. When she sent me to Grandma's house every summer, I do not think it was because she wanted me to bond with my grandmother. I think she just wanted me out of the way. I remember hearing them argue on the phone sometimes. I was too young to understand the details, but I caught pieces of it. My mother wanted Grandma to sell the house and the land. She said it was worth a lot of money, and that Grandma was being selfish by holding on to it. Grandma refused every time. She said that house was where she and my grandfather built their life together, where she raised her children, where she wanted to live until her last breath. My grandfather had passed away when I was just a toddler, so I never really knew him. But Grandma kept his memory alive in every corner of that house. His reading chair by the fireplace, his tools in the shed, his favorite coffee mug on the shelf. When I turned 16, Grandma gave me a gift that I still have to this day. It was a small wooden box beautifully carved with roses along the edges. Inside were letters, dozens of them. She had written one to me every year since I was born, starting from the day I came home from the hospital. Each letter was dated and sealed, and she told me to read them in order. I sat in her guest room that night and read every single one. She wrote about her hopes for me, her prayers for my happiness, her memories of watching me grow. In one letter written when I was 10, she said something that stuck with me forever. She wrote, "Delia, you are the part of me that will live on after I am gone. Everything I have, everything I am, belongs to you." I did not fully understand what she meant back then. I was just a teenager more focused on boys and school and fitting in with my friends. But I kept that box safe. I kept every letter. And years later, those words would mean more to me than I ever could have imagined. The first sign that something was wrong came when I was in college. I was 20 years old and studying accounting at a state university about 6 hours from home. I called Grandma every Sunday evening, our little tradition. But one Sunday, her number was disconnected. I called my mother to ask what happened, and she said Grandma had changed her number because she was getting too many spam calls. She gave me the new number, and I thought nothing of it. But when I called the new number, it went straight to voicemail. Every time. For weeks. I finally got through one evening, and Grandma sounded confused. She said she had not received any of my messages, that she thought I had forgotten about her. I told her that was impossible, that I had been trying to reach her for weeks. She went quiet for a moment, and then she said, "Your mother told me you were too busy with school to talk. She said you would call when you had time." My stomach dropped. Why would my mother lie to both of us? After I graduated from college at 23, I got a job as an accountant at a small firm in the city. It was not glamorous work, but it paid the bills and gave me a sense of independence. I rented a tiny apartment near downtown, furnished it with secondhand furniture, and started building a life of my own. The first thing I wanted to do was visit Grandma. I had not seen her in almost 2 years, and I missed her desperately. I told my mother about my plans over dinner one night. Her reaction was immediate and sharp. She said Grandma was doing fine on her own and did not need visitors. She said I should focus on my career instead of wasting time driving 4 hours to the countryside. When I pushed back, she became angry. She said I was being selfish, that I was trying to insert myself where I was not needed, that Grandma was old and tired and did not have the energy for house guests. I did not believe her. Something felt wrong, deeply wrong. But I was young and still financially dependent on my parents for things like my car insurance and my phone bill. I did not want to start a war with my mother, so I backed down. I told myself I would visit Grandma soon, just not right now. I told myself there would be plenty of time. Months passed, and my mother found new ways to keep me away. She planned a family vacation to Mexico over Christmas, the exact time I had wanted to visit Grandma. She told me it was mandatory that my father Ronald insisted the whole family be together. My father was a quiet man who never disagreed with my mother about anything. He nodded along to whatever she said, and I knew there was no point in arguing with him. So I went to Mexico. I swam in the ocean and drank margaritas on the beach, all while thinking about Grandma alone in her farmhouse, wondering why I never came. Then one day, a letter arrived. Not an email or a text, but an actual handwritten letter in a cream-colored envelope. The return address was Grandma's. I opened it with shaking hands and read her words. "My dearest Delia, I miss you more than words can say. I do not understand why you have stopped visiting. Your mother tells me you are very busy, but that does not sound like my Delia. Are you angry with me? Did I do something wrong? Please write back. Please let me know you are okay. My health has not been good lately, and I would like to see you before it is too late. I love you always. Your Grandmother Louise." I read that letter 5 times, each time feeling the anger build inside me. My mother had been lying. She had been telling Grandma that I was too busy, that I did not want to visit. She had been telling me that Grandma did not want visitors. She had deliberately kept us apart, and I had been too naive to see it. I confronted my mother that weekend. I showed her the letter and demanded an explanation. She did not apologize. Instead, she exploded. She accused Grandma of manipulating me, of trying to turn me against my own parents. She said Grandma had always favored me and used that favoritism to cause problems in the family. She said I needed to choose where my loyalty lay. "If you go running to her," my mother said, "do not expect any more help from us. No more car insurance, no more phone, nothing." I stood there frozen. I was 24 years old, barely making enough money to cover my rent and groceries. The thought of losing my parents' financial support terrified me. So I made a choice that I would regret for the rest of my life. I stayed quiet. I stopped pushing. I told myself I would figure out a way to see Grandma without my mother knowing. But time kept passing. Months turned into years. And every time I planned a secret visit, something came up. Work deadlines, car trouble, exhaustion, excuses. Always excuses. I sent Grandma cards on her birthday and at Christmas. I called when I could, though the calls were brief and often monitored by my mother, who seemed to have an uncanny ability to call me right when I was on the phone with Grandma. Slowly, painfully, the distance between us grew. I tried to stay connected. I really did. But my mother was relentless. She found ways to make every conversation about Grandma into a conflict. She accused me of being ungrateful for everything she and my father had done for me. She threatened to tell Grandma things about me that were not true to poison that relationship even further. Eventually, I stopped fighting. I retreated into my work, my small apartment, my quiet life. I told myself I would make it right someday. I told myself Grandma would understand. I was wrong. I was 28 years old when my phone rang one Tuesday afternoon. The number was unfamiliar, and I almost did not answer. But something told me to pick up. "Is this Delia?" a woman's voice asked. She sounded nervous, almost scared. "Yes, who is this?" "My name is Patty. I am a nurse taking care of your grandmother Louise. She asked me to call you." My heart stopped. I gripped the phone so tightly my knuckles turned white. "What happened? Is she okay?" There was a pause, and I heard Patty take a deep breath. "Honey, I am not supposed to be calling you. Your mother specifically told me not to contact you under any circumstances. But your grandmother, she keeps asking for you. She cries your name in her sleep. I could not just ignore that." "What is wrong with her?" "It is cancer. Stage 4. The doctors say she has maybe 2 or 3 months left, but honestly, it could be less. She needs you, Delia. She needs to see you." The room spun around me. Cancer. Stage 4, 2 or 3 months. And my mother had kept this from me. She had known that Grandma was dying, and she had said nothing. "I am coming," I said. "I am coming right now." I told my boss there was a family emergency and drove straight to Grandma's house. 4 hours had never felt so long. I replayed every conversation with my mother, every lie she had told, every time she had made me feel guilty for wanting to see my own grandmother. The anger burned inside me like a fire I could not control. When I finally pulled up to the farmhouse, I saw 3 cars parked in the driveway. My parents' sedan, a black SUV I did not recognize, and my Uncle Barry's truck. My uncle was my mother's younger brother, a man I barely knew. He lived across the country and only showed up when there was something to gain. His daughter Tanya, my cousin, was probably with him. She had always been jealous of my relationship with Grandma, always making snide comments about how I was the favorite grandchild. I walked up to the front door and knocked. My mother opened it. "What are you doing here?" she demanded, her eyes wide with shock. "I came to see Grandma. I know she is sick. I know everything." "Who told you? Was it that nurse? I am going to have her fired." "It does not matter who told me. Move out of my way. I want to see my grandmother." My mother did not move. Instead, she stepped outside and closed the door behind her, blocking my path. "You cannot go in there," she said, her voice cold and final. "The doctor said she needs rest. Visitors will only make things worse. You will upset her. I am her granddaughter. I have every right to be here. You have no rights here, Delia. This is my mother, my house, my decision. Go home." I tried to push past her, but my father appeared at her side. He put his hand on my shoulder and shook his head slowly. "Listen to your mother," he said quietly. "This is not the time." "When is the time? When she is already dead?" My mother's eyes narrowed. "Do not be dramatic. We will let you know when you can visit. Now please leave before you cause a scene." Through the window, I saw movement. It was Grandma's bedroom, the one on the first floor with the lace curtain she had sewn herself. I could see the outline of a hospital bed, medical equipment figures moving around. And then I saw her. Just a glimpse. Thin and pale, her hair white against the pillow, her eyes closed. She was right there, 20 feet away, and I could not reach her. Cousin Tanya appeared in the window looking down at me. She smiled a cruel little smile that made my stomach turn. Then she pulled the curtains closed. I stood there in the rain because at some point it had started to rain, and I had not even noticed. I begged my parents to let me in. I promised to be quiet, to only stay for 5 minutes to do whatever they asked. They refused. My uncle came outside and told me to leave, that I was trespassing, that he would call the police if I did not go. So I left. I sat in my car at the end of the driveway for an hour crying until I had no tears left. I called Nurse Patty, but she did not answer. I called back 3 times before she finally picked up. I tried, I said, my voice breaking. They would not let me in. I know, sweetheart, I am so sorry. They told me I am not allowed to contact you again. I could lose my job. I understand. Thank you for trying. Thank you for calling me. Your grandmother loves you. Never forget that. Whatever happens, never forget that. 2 weeks later, I received a text message from my mother. Just 2 sentences. Your grandmother passed away this morning. The funeral is Saturday. I found out about the specific details of the funeral through Facebook. Cousin Tanya posted a long tribute to Grandma Louise, talking about how much she would miss her beloved grandmother, how Grandma had been such an important part of her life, how devastated the whole family was. The post had dozens of comments, all expressing condolences and sharing memories. I scrolled through them numbly, looking for any information about the service. The funeral was scheduled for Saturday at 11 in the morning at the local funeral home in Grandma's town. There was a reception afterward at the farmhouse. No one had called me. No one had texted me the details. If Tanya had not posted on social media, I might not have known when or where to go. I drove to the funeral alone. My best friend Serena offered to come with me, but I told her I needed to do this by myself. I wore a simple black dress and carried a bouquet of white roses, Grandma's favorite flowers. I remembered how she used to grow them in her garden, how she would cut fresh blooms every morning and put them in a crystal vase on the kitchen table. The smell of roses would always remind me of her. When I arrived at the funeral home, the parking lot was already full. I recognized my parents' car, my uncle's truck, and several other vehicles that must have belonged to distant relatives or family friends. I took a deep breath, steadied myself, and walked inside. The viewing room was decorated with flowers and photographs of Grandma at various stages of her life. There was a picture of her on her wedding day, young and radiant in a white lace gown. A picture of her holding my mother as a baby. A picture of her in her classroom surrounded by smiling students. And there in the corner, a small framed photo of her and me taken when I was about 7 years old. We were standing in the apple orchard, both of us laughing at something off camera. Someone had placed that photo at the very edge of the display, almost hidden behind the larger frames. I walked toward the front of the room where my family was seated in the first row. My mother saw me first. Her eyes widened, then hardened. "What are you doing here?" she whispered sharply. "I came to say goodbye to my grandmother." "You should sit in the back. This row is for immediate family." I stared at her in disbelief. "I am her granddaughter. I am immediate family. You lost that privilege when you chose to abandon her. Sit in the back, Delia. Do not make this harder than it needs to be." I could have argued. I could have caused a scene, demanded my rightful place, forced them to acknowledge me. But this was Grandma's funeral. This was supposed to be about honoring her memory, not about my family's petty cruelties. So I swallowed my pride, my anger, my heartbreak, and I walked to the back of the room. I sat in the last row alone, clutching my roses like a lifeline. The service began with a prayer, followed by a hymn that Grandma had loved. Then my mother stood up to deliver the eulogy. She spoke about Grandma's kindness, her generosity, her devotion to her family. She talked about Sunday dinners and holiday traditions, and all the sacrifices Grandma had made for her children. She said that Grandma had passed away peacefully, surrounded by the people she loved. Not once did she mention my name. I sat through the entire eulogy with tears streaming down my face, not just from grief, but from the sheer injustice of it all. My mother was rewriting history, erasing me from Grandma's story as if I had never existed, and there was nothing I could do about it. When the eulogy ended, people were invited to come forward and pay their final respects. I waited until everyone else had gone until the room was nearly empty before I approached the casket. Grandma looked peaceful, her hands folded over her chest, her white hair arranged neatly around her face. She was wearing the blue dress I had sent her for her birthday 2 years ago. The one she had told me made her feel like a queen. I leaned down and kissed her forehead, the skin cold and strange beneath my lips. "I am so sorry, Grandma," I whispered. "I am sorry I was not there. I am sorry I let them keep me away. I hope you can forgive me." I slipped a small envelope into the casket tucked beside her hand. It was a letter I had written the night before, telling her everything I wished I had said while she was alive, telling her how much I loved her, how much she had shaped my life, how I would carry her with me forever. After the burial, everyone gathered at the farmhouse for the reception. I went even though every part of me wanted to run away. I walked through the front door for the first time in years, and the smell hit me immediately. Roses and cinnamon and something warm and familiar that I could not quite name. It smelled like home. It smelled like love. No one spoke to me. Relatives I had not seen in years looked right through me as if I were a ghost. Cousin Tanya whispered something to her father as I walked by, and they both laughed. My mother moved from group to group, accepting condolences, playing the role of the grieving daughter. My father stood in the corner nursing a drink, avoiding eye contact with everyone. I found myself in the kitchen, standing at the counter where Grandma and I had made so many apple pies together. The old wooden rolling pin was still in the drawer where she always kept it. I touched it gently, remembering her hands guiding mine, showing me how to roll the dough thin and even. "She talked about you all the time, you know." I turned around. An elderly man stood in the doorway leaning on a wooden cane. It took me a moment to recognize him. Mr. Harold, Grandma's neighbor from down the road. He had lived next door for as long as I could remember, a kind old widower who helped Grandma with yard work and brought her vegetables from his garden. "Mr. Harold," I said, my voice thick with emotion. "I did not see you at the service." "I sat in the back, like you." He shuffled toward me, his eyes soft with understanding. "Your grandmother was my best friend. Knew her for almost 40 years. She loved you more than anything in this world." Then why did she let them keep me away? She did not let them do anything. She fought them every step of the way. But she was sick, Delia. Too sick to fight anymore. He paused, lowering his voice. "She told me things, though. Things she did not tell anyone else. She knew what her daughter was like. She knew what would happen after she died. And she prepared for it." "What do you mean?" Mr. Harold smiled a knowing, secretive smile. "Just wait. Be patient. Everything she wanted you to have, you will have. She made sure of it." Before I could ask more questions, my mother appeared in the doorway. "Delia, I think it is time for you to leave. This reception is for close family and friends." I looked at her, this woman who had given birth to me, but had never truly been my mother. I thought about all the things I wanted to say, all the accusations I wanted to make. But I was tired. So tired. "Goodbye, Mother," I said quietly. And I walked out the door. 1 week after the funeral, I received a letter in the mail. It was from a law firm called Webb and Associates, and it informed me that I was required to attend a reading of the last will and testament of Louise May Harrison at 10 o'clock in the morning on the following Monday. I was to bring identification and be prepared to receive important documents. I was confused. My mother had told me that she and Uncle Barry were handling all of Grandma's estate matters and that there was nothing left for me. She said Grandma's assets were modest and would barely cover her medical debts. She made it sound like the inheritance was already divided and I was not included. But this letter said otherwise. On Monday morning, I drove to the law firm's office in Grandma's town. It was a small brick building on Main Street, sandwiched between a bakery and a hardware store. When I walked in, I saw my family already seated in the conference room. My mother, my father, Uncle Barry, Cousin Tanya. They all turned to look at me with expressions ranging from annoyance to outright hostility. "What is she doing here?" Uncle Barry demanded. A man in a gray suit stood up from the head of the table. He was around 60 years old with silver hair and kind eyes behind wire-rimmed glasses. "I invited her," he said calmly. "I am Marcus Webb, your grandmother's attorney. Please, Delia, have a seat." I sat down at the opposite end of the table, as far from my family as possible. "Now that everyone is here, we can begin," Attorney Webb said. He opened a folder and pulled out several documents. "Louise May Harrison drafted her last will and testament with me 15 years ago and updated it several times over the years. The most recent version was signed and notarized 6 months ago, when she was first diagnosed with cancer." He began to read. The language was formal and legal, full of phrases like "hereby bequeath" and "surviving beneficiaries." But the gist was clear. Grandma had left her house and the surrounding 5 acres of land to my mother and Uncle Barry to be divided equally between them. She had left her car to Cousin Tanya. She had left small cash gifts to several charities and community organizations. My mother and Uncle Barry exchanged satisfied looks. Cousin Tanya smiled smugly. I sat there in silence, my heart sinking. Mr. Harold had said Grandma had prepared for this, that she had made sure I would receive what she wanted me to have. But so far, my name had not been mentioned once. Then Attorney Webb set down the will and picked up a different document. "There is one more matter to address," he said. "This document is separate from the will. It is a revocable living trust established by Louise May Harrison 15 years ago, when her granddaughter Delia was 14 years old. The trust was funded with assets that were never part of the estate and therefore cannot be contested or disputed by any other party." My mother's smile vanished. "What trust? What are you talking about?" Attorney Webb looked directly at me. "Delia, your grandmother created this trust specifically for you. She funded it over the years with money from her teacher's pension, Social Security, and rental income from a property she purchased in the city. The trust includes the following assets." He began to read from a list. "First, a cash account currently valued at $450,000. I heard my mother gasp. "Second, a 2-bedroom condominium located at 742 Maple Avenue in the city, which has been generating rental income for the past 20 years. The current market value of this property is approximately $350,000. Uncle Barry slammed his hand on the table. "This is outrageous. She was manipulated. She was not in her right mind." Attorney Webb held up his hand. "I can assure you that Mrs. Harrison was completely lucid when she established and updated this trust. I have documentation from her physician and an independent witness confirming her mental capacity. The trust is entirely legal and binding. Third," he continued, "all personal jewelry, family heirlooms, and sentimental items belonging to Louise May Harrison, including her wedding rings, her mother's pearl necklace, and her collection of antique brooches. These items are to be delivered to Delia within 30 days. My mother stood up, her face red with fury. "I am her daughter. I should have received those things. Mother always said the pearls would go to me." "The trust documents are clear," Mrs. Karen, Attorney Webb said firmly. "Your mother's wishes were explicit. The items belong to Delia." Cousin Tanya burst into tears. "This is not fair. Grandma always loved Delia more. She always gave her everything. And now she is getting hundreds of thousands of dollars while I get an old car." I sat frozen in my chair, unable to process what I was hearing. $450,000, a condominium, all of Grandma's jewelry, things I never knew existed, things Grandma had secretly saved and set aside for me over 15 years, long before she ever got sick. "There is one more item," Attorney Webb said. He reached into the folder and pulled out a sealed envelope. This is a personal letter from Louise to Delia. She gave it to me last year, with instructions to deliver it only after the reading of the trust. She asked that Delia read it privately. He handed me the envelope. My name was written on the front, in Grandma's elegant cursive, the same handwriting from all those letters in the wooden box. My mother lunged across the table. "Let me see that letter. I have a right to know what it says." Attorney Webb stepped between us. "You have no such right. This letter is Delia's private property, and she may do with it as she wishes." I stood up, clutching the envelope to my chest. I looked at my family, these people who shared my blood but had never truly loved me. My mother was seething. My father looked embarrassed. Uncle Barry was already pulling out his phone, probably to call a lawyer. Cousin Tanya was still crying. I did not say anything to them. There was nothing left to say. I turned and walked out of the office past the reception desk, out the front door, into the bright morning sunshine. I got into my car and drove. I did not stop until I reached a park on the edge of town, a quiet spot by a pond, where Grandma used to take me to feed the ducks when I was little. I sat on a bench beneath an old oak tree and finally opened the envelope. The letter was 3 pages long, written on the same cream-colored stationery Grandma had always used. I recognized the faint scent of rose perfume clinging to the paper. She must have kept the stationery in her drawer, next to the little bottle of perfume my grandfather had given her decades ago. "My dearest Delia," the letter began, "if you are reading this, then I have gone to be with your grandfather, and I am finally at peace. But before I left this world, I needed you to know the truth. The truth about why I created this trust, the truth about your mother, and the truth about how much I have always loved you." I read slowly, letting every word sink in. Grandma explained that she had seen who my mother truly was, long before I was born. Karen had always been obsessed with money, with status, with appearances. When she married my father, it was not for love, but for financial security. When I was born, Karen saw me as a burden, an obstacle to the life she wanted. She sent me to Grandma's house every summer, not out of kindness, but because she did not want to deal with me. "I watched your mother try to poison your mind against me," Grandma wrote. "I watched her keep us apart as you grew older. I knew that when I died, she would try to erase you from my legacy completely. She and your uncle would take everything, sell the house and the land, and leave you with nothing. I could not let that happen." 15 years ago, Grandma had quietly begun to prepare. She used her savings to buy a small condominium in the city, renting it out through a property management company to generate income. She deposited every extra penny into a trust fund with my name on it. She worked with Attorney Webb to make sure everything was airtight, that no one could contest or overturn her wishes. "Your mother does not know about the apartment or the money," Grandma wrote. "She never asked about my finances, and I never offered. She assumed I had nothing but the house and whatever small amounts remained in my checking account. Let her keep thinking that. The house was always going to go to her and Barry. But everything else, everything that truly mattered to me, belongs to you." There was more. Grandma wrote about her dreams for my future, her hope that I would use the money to pursue my passions, to build a life that made me happy. She told me about the jewelry pieces that had been passed down through generations of women in our family, that she had hidden away so Karen could not get her hands on them. And then she wrote something that broke my heart and healed it at the same time. "I know you blame yourself for not being there at the end. I know you think you failed me by staying away. But Delia, you never failed me. Your mother kept you from me, not the other way around. I fought to see you. I begged her to let you come. She refused. She told me you did not want to see me, that you had moved on with your life, that I was just a burden to you. I did not believe her. I never believed her. But I was too weak to fight anymore. Please forgive yourself, my darling. You did nothing wrong. You were the light of my life from the moment you were born until the moment I closed my eyes for the last time. I died thinking of you. I died loving you, and I will continue loving you from wherever I am now." The letter ended with a simple instruction: "Live your life, Delia. Do not let bitterness consume you. Do not waste years holding on to anger toward your mother. She will have to live with her choices, and that is punishment enough. Focus on your own happiness. Build something beautiful. And whenever you make an apple pie, think of me." I sat on that bench for a long time, after finishing the letter, watching the ducks glide across the pond, listening to the wind rustle through the leaves. I cried, I laughed. I felt grief and joy and relief, all tangled together in a knot that would take years to untangle. But for the first time since Grandma's death, I did not feel alone. She was still with me in her words and her gifts, in the love she had protected so fiercely, even when her body was failing her. The weeks after the will reading were chaos. My mother called me constantly, leaving voicemails that alternated between tearful pleas and furious threats. She said the house needed expensive repairs, that the roof was leaking, and the foundation was cracked, that she and Uncle Barry could not afford to fix it without help. She demanded that I share my inheritance, that it was only fair, since Grandma's estate had been unfairly divided. Uncle Barry had his lawyer send me a letter threatening to contest the trust, claiming that Grandma had been mentally incompetent and that I had unduly influenced her decisions. I hired my own lawyer, a sharp woman named Victoria Chen, who specialized in estate disputes. She reviewed all of Attorney Webb's documentation and assured me that the trust was ironclad. There was no way Uncle Barry could win in court. He was bluffing, hoping I would get scared and settle. I did not settle. I did not give them a single penny. Instead, I made a decision. I had been working as an accountant for 6 years, crunching numbers for other people's businesses while my own dreams collected dust in the back of my mind. Grandma had always encouraged me to follow my passion for baking. Every time I visited her, she told me I had a gift, that I should open my own bakery someday. I always laughed it off, saying it was just a hobby, not a real career. But now, with her money and her blessing, I had no more excuses. I sold the condominium for a little over $300,000. Combined with the cash already in the trust, I had more than enough to start fresh. I found a small retail space for lease in a charming neighborhood downtown, right next to a flower shop and across from a bookstore. The location was perfect. The rent was reasonable. The universe seemed to be telling me that this was meant to be. 3 months later, I opened Louise's Kitchen. I named the bakery after my grandmother because everything good in my life had come from her. The menu featured all the recipes she had taught me over the years. Apple pie, of course, but also cinnamon rolls, peach cobbler, lemon squares, and her famous chocolate cake with buttercream frosting. I hung photographs of her throughout the space, including the one of us in the apple orchard, the same photo that had been hidden in the corner at her funeral. Now it held a place of honor right behind the register. The bakery was a success from the beginning. People loved the homey atmosphere, the quality of the ingredients, the warmth that seemed to radiate from every corner. Regulars started coming in every morning for coffee and pastries. Food bloggers wrote glowing reviews. A local newspaper did a feature story about me, the young woman who had turned her grandmother's recipes into a thriving business. In the article, I talked about Grandma Louise, about how she'd believed in me when no one else did, about how she'd given me the courage and the means to follow my dreams. My mother saw the article. She showed up at the bakery on a Tuesday afternoon, the bell above the door jingling as she walked in. I was behind the counter boxing up an order for a customer. When I looked up and saw her, my hands stopped moving. "Delia," she said, "we need to talk." I finished the order, handed it to the customer with a smile, and then turned back to my mother. "What do you want?" "The house," she said. "It needs a new roof. The heating system is failing. Barry and I cannot afford to fix it, and the real estate market is down, so we cannot sell it for what it is worth. I need money." "And you came to me." "You have plenty." Her voice turned bitter. "Grandma made sure of that. The least you can do is help your own mother." I looked at her for a long moment. This woman, who had lied to me for years, who had kept me from my grandmother's bedside, who had tried to erase me from my grandmother's life and legacy. She stood there with her hand out, expecting me to give her what she wanted simply because we shared DNA. No, I said. Excuse me. I said no. I am not giving you money. Not now. Not ever. Her face reddened. After everything I did for you, I raised you, I fed you, I paid for your education, and this is how you repay me. You did not raise me, Mother. Grandma raised me. You sent me away every chance you got because you did not want to deal with me. And when I tried to see her at the end when she was dying and asking for me, you stood in the doorway and told me to leave. You denied me the chance to say goodbye to the only person in this family who ever truly loved me. I was protecting her? Your presence would have upset her. You were protecting yourself. You were protecting your inheritance. You were afraid that if I spent time with her, she might change. Her will might give me more than you thought I deserved. But guess what? She already had. She had been planning for years to make sure you could not take everything. And it worked. You got the house, the crumbling, expensive, rotting house. And I got her love. My mother opened her mouth to respond, but I held up my hand. I want you to leave now. Do not come back. Do not call me. Do not write to me. You made your choice a long time ago when you chose money over family. Now I am making mine. I do not need you. I do not want you in my life. Grandma taught me that loving myself is not selfish, and I am finally starting to believe her. My mother stared at me, her eyes blazing with fury, and something else, maybe hurt, maybe regret. But I did not care anymore. I had spent too many years trying to earn her love, trying to be good enough for her approval. I was done. She turned and walked out without another word. The bell jingled again as the door closed behind her. And just like that, she was gone. It has been almost a year since I opened Louise's kitchen. The bakery continues to grow, and I recently hired my best friend Serena as my business partner. She handles the marketing and finances while I focus on the baking and customer service. We make a good team. Some nights after closing, we sit in the kitchen with a bottle of wine and talk about our dreams, our fears, our hopes for the future. I never had a sister, but Serena is the closest thing to one. I started seeing a therapist a few months after the will reading. Her name is Dr. Patterson, and she has helped me process years of pain, rejection, and complicated grief. We talk about my relationship with my mother, about the ways I learned to diminish myself, to avoid conflict, about the guilt I carried for not fighting harder to see Grandma. Slowly, session by session, I am learning to forgive myself. I am learning that I was never the problem. Some days are harder than others. Some days I wake up thinking about Grandma, and the tears come before I even get out of bed. Some days I see something that reminds me of her, a certain shade of blue sky, a woman with white hair in the grocery store, the smell of cinnamon, and the grief hits me all over again. But I have learned that grief is not something you get over. It is something you learn to carry. And the weight becomes lighter when you know you are carrying it with love. I still have the wooden box of letters. It sits on my nightstand now, where I can see it every night before I fall asleep. Sometimes I reread the letters, tracing Grandma's handwriting with my finger, hearing her voice in my head. I keep her final letter in a separate envelope tucked inside the box, like the treasure it is. Last month, I planted an apple tree in the small courtyard behind the bakery. I grew it from a seed I took from Grandma's orchard the last time I visited years before she got sick. The tree is small now, barely taller than my waist, but it is growing. In a few years, it will bloom. And someday, it will bear fruit. I like to think Grandma would be proud. I do not speak to my mother anymore. I have not seen her since that day at the bakery. Occasionally, I hear updates through distant relatives or old family friends. The house needed more repairs than anyone expected. My mother and Uncle Barry ended up selling it at a loss, barely breaking even after paying off the debts. They blame me, of course. They say if I had helped, none of this would have happened. But I feel no guilt. I did not owe them anything then, and I owe them nothing now. Cousin Tanya tried to reach out to me once a few months ago. She sent me a Facebook message saying she was sorry for how the family had treated me, that she had always been jealous. But she realized now how wrong she had been. I read the message and felt nothing. Maybe someday I will respond. Maybe someday I will find it in my heart to forgive her. But not today. Today I am focused on my own healing. There is a question I get asked a lot by friends, by my therapist, by people who hear my story. Do I forgive my mother? The answer is complicated. I do not forgive her in the way most people mean it. The kind of forgiveness that comes with reconciliation and restoration. I cannot pretend that what she did was okay, because it was not. She deliberately kept me from my dying grandmother. She lied to me for years. She treated me as an obstacle rather than a daughter. Those wounds will never fully heal. But I have stopped letting the anger control me. I have stopped replaying our conversations in my head, imagining what I should have said, wishing I had been stronger or braver or louder. I have released her from the space she used to occupy in my mind. In that sense, I suppose I have forgiven her not for her sake, but for mine. Holding on to hatred is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. Grandma taught me that, and she was right. Family is a word that used to fill me with complicated emotions. For so long, I thought family meant obligation, meant putting up with mistreatment because of shared blood, meant sacrificing your own well-being to keep the peace. But I have learned that family is something you choose, not something you are born into. Family is Serena, who held me when I cried and celebrated when the bakery opened. Family is my customers who come in every day and ask about my life like they genuinely care. Family is Dr. Patterson, who listens without judgment and helps me become the person I want to be. And family is Grandma Louise, who loved me fiercely and unconditionally, who saw my potential when I could not see it myself, who made sure I would be taken care of long after she was gone. I think about her every single day. When I roll out pie dough in the bakery kitchen, I feel her hands guiding mine. When I smell roses, I close my eyes and imagine I am back in her garden. When something good happens, I look up at the sky and whisper thank you, because I know she is watching. The money she left me was life-changing, but it was never really about the money. It was about the love behind it. It was about a grandmother who refused to let her daughter's cruelty destroy what we had built together. It was about legacy, not in the sense of wealth, but in the sense of values, of kindness, of believing in the people you love, even when the world tells you not to. So if you are watching this, and you have ever felt alone in your own family, I want you to know something. You are not crazy. You are not too sensitive. You are not asking for too much by wanting to be treated with respect and love. Sometimes the people who are supposed to protect you are the ones who hurt you the most. And when that happens, you have to protect yourself. You have to build your own family. You have to find your own Louise. And if you are lucky enough to have someone like my grandmother in your life, hold on to them. Tell them you love them. Visit them even when life gets busy, even when it is inconvenient, even when others tell you not to. Because one day they will be gone, and you will wish you had just one more hour, one more conversation, one more slice of pie in their warm kitchen. I carry Grandma with me every day, in the recipes I bake, in the tree growing behind my shop, in the letters I keep by my bed, and in the way I try to live my life with kindness, with courage, with love. She left my parents a will, she left me a trust. But what she really left me was so much more than money or property. She left me proof that I was loved, and that has changed everything. Thank you for staying with me until the end of this story. I know it was a long one, but I needed to share it, because I know there are others out there who have experienced similar pain. You are not alone. I have a question for you before I go. Have you ever had someone in your life who believed in you when no one else did? Someone who loved you unconditionally, even when your own family did not? I would love to hear about them. Please leave a comment below and share your story. Let us celebrate the Louises in our lives, the people who remind us what real love looks like. If this video touched your heart, please take a moment to hit that like button. It helps more people find stories like this one. And if you have not already, please subscribe to this channel and turn on notifications so you never miss a new video. I share stories like this every week, stories of heartbreak and healing, of loss and redemption, of finding strength in the most unexpected places. Please share this video with someone who might need to hear it today. You never know who is going through their own family struggles in silence. Your share might be exactly what they need. Thank you so much for watching, for listening, for being here with me. I am sending you all love and peace wherever you are in the world. Remember, you are worthy of love. You are allowed to set boundaries. And you deserve to surround yourself with people who see your value. Take care of yourselves and take care of each other. I will see you in the next story.